All right, so we have a very special treat for you today as we continue to move forward in all new ways at CSLDallas. We are truly excited to bring you back our theater ministry under the able direction of Joe Tinker.
All right, let's bring our actors forward and let us tell the story of the Queen of Peace. Now, once upon a time, there was a very popular queen. Long live the queen. She ruled the land with kindness and compassion for her loyal subjects. One day, the queen, long live the queen, decided to commission a great work of art which would represent peace to everyone who saw it. She assembled her loyal subjects and made a proclamation.
I will award a great prize to the artist in the realm who paints the most perfect picture of peace.
So all the artists across the land began painting immediately. And soon after, the queen traveled across the realm with her loyal judges, looking at paintings for 3 months until they narrowed the selection down to 2 finalists. On the day she was to name the winner, the queen's loyal subjects crowded into the palace to see which artist would win the prize. First, she called up artist number 1. Artist number 1. Artist number 1!
I have painted for you this beautiful representation of peace. This is what I see when I see peace. With each brush stroke, I took a breath. And as you can see, there's this lovely, lovely lake that is placid, and it is the perfect mirror for the mountains, the majestic mountains in the background. Those mountains have been there since before we even existed, just being mountains. And then next you can see mirrored in the lake this beautiful tree being a tree. And then you can see mirrored up above, down below, as within, so without, are the clouds, these big, fluffy clouds, fluffy clouds. And I like to think of those clouds as my thoughts. And I watch them go by. And in between the gap of these fluffy clouds, I know that all is truly well.
And as they looked on, the royal subjects were awed and amazed. Ooh. Next came artist number 2.
I love this painting. Notice the grim austerity of the mountain peaks in the background and the smoking remnants of a recent forest fire. And the remaining trees are bending almost to the breaking point in a gale force wind. And in the foreground, you can see this roiling waterfall. You can almost hear the deafening crescendo of its roar. It's chaos.
As they looked on, the royal subjects were very disgruntled. Then it was time for the final selection by the queen. Long live the queen.
For the most perfect picture of peace, I choose...
Drum roll, please.
Artist number 2.
The royal subjects were aghast, stunned, and they murmured among themselves. What? But they were silenced by the queen. She spoke to them. They were silenced by the queen. And she spoke to them thus.
I choose painting number 2. Because when you look closely, you can see behind the waterfall a bush growing out of a crack in the rock. And on a branch of the tree is a little bird's nest, and inside the nest sits a mother bird in perfect peace.
The loyal subjects were struck with awe and wonder. Then the queen made a final proclamation.
Peace does not mean being in a place where there is no noise, trouble, or hard work. Peace means to be in the midst of those things and still be calm in your heart. That is the true meaning of peace.
And the royal subjects cheered. Bows. Yeah. Oh, and I'm sorry, by the way, artist number 2, everyone wants to know, what was the great prize you received?
Oh, it was a lifetime subscription to the Science of Mind magazine.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
I love it. I love it so much. Thank you so much, Joe, Lainey, Val, and Randy. Thank you so much for bringing that story to life. It was so much better than me telling that story. I love it. That is actually, it's a traditional Zen story. It wasn't just made up. And fabulous. Okay, so now I have to just, it's technology, right? You always got to get the technology going here. Holy moly. And goodness gracious, I have a lot to say. Oh, that was a lot of pages. So I love this story so much because when I first started meditating, I was fluffing my aura. I wanted those little fluffy clouds. I wanted to sit by the placid pool of peace all the time. And what I noticed when I first started meditating, when I got up from my cushion and I went out into the world, I was way more irritated than I had been before. I know, I hate outing myself. It's terrible, right? But I tell you, this is the gospel truth. I started doing meditation and feeling that place of bliss and like peace. It took me a long time to get there. I was a slow learner. But when I did finally get there, I found people even more annoying than I had found them before. Traffic was way worse. And I noticed that I would get up from my meditation cushion and I would start to drive somewhere. And by the time I got there, not only was my meditation completely gone, but I was like in a tizzy with all the people on the Dallas freeways and the way they drive. Oh my gosh. Actually, there was a period of time when I decided I was no longer going to meditate because it made everything worse. And that was when I began to explore this idea, the peace that passes understanding. Now, I grew up with that phrase. It's a phrase out of the New Testament. I grew up with that phrase. And I remember the first time that I heard it, I'd be like, huh? What does that mean, the peace that passes understanding? And, of course, we hear in the holidays from the Christian tradition, peace on earth, goodwill to all. But I noticed that I was not experiencing that. Well, actually, I was experiencing that, but because of the things around me, it was impacting my peace. And I found it really, really frustrating and challenging. So this is our second of the gifts of the holidays. We talked about joy last week. We're going to talk about peace this week. Then we're going to talk about light, and we're going to close out with love. If you are not receiving it, you can get our study guide for the month, and there's an opportunity to work with all of these for yourself in your Sangha or with your own family or by yourself at home. And the holidays are, all of these gifts come out of the traditions. And peace is one of them. Peace on earth, goodwill to all. How many of you have not always had peaceful holidays? I certainly grew up with unpeaceful holidays. And I see it today. Do you feel it in the air? Over the last few years, the incivility, the mounting rage, the way in which the bombardment of social media, I don't know about you, but I get 47 million emails, and they all start with, "Oh my God," right? Or "Did you know?" exclamation point. And all of them designed to disturb our peace and for us to click on it and engage in some way. We have more depression today, not only in our CEOs, but all the way down to our 10 and 14-year-old children who are suffering from depression and suicide, an epidemic of suicide due to social media and parenting styles. It's pretty remarkable, and I'm imagining that you're experiencing it out there too. And if it's not rage and incivility, many of us have moved into apathy or withdrawal, or there's nothing I can do. That opens something new. So this peace that passes all understanding, this idea of peace on earth, goodwill to all. So we're going to talk about what this means and how we might approach it a little differently based on this fabulous story, which I have loved for years. It was truly a turning point in my own spiritual education. Because the first time I heard that story, I was like, no way. There is no way that I would have awarded artist number 2 the prize. No way. I wanted that lake, and I wanted those mountains, and I wanted those trees, and I wanted to go sit in that spot, and I wanted my life to look and feel like that all the time. So this idea of being at peace, being in peace. I want to begin with this quote from Ernest Holmes, which I'm hoping I can read up here. You can see it up there on the slide. It's very dark in my here. It's from Ralph Waldo Emerson. This was the other piece that really spoke to me. It is easy in the world to live after the world's opinion. It is easy in solitude to live after our own. But the great one is one who in the midst of the crowd keeps with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude. Man, I had to really, really, really notice how much that was not so for me. I wanted the solitude. I wanted the peace of solitude. And I wanted for that to be my experience, and how many of us feel that way. And then we get out in the marketplace, and it is easy to get pushed and pulled, and it gets busy, and it gets all kinds of things going on, right? But it is that sweetness of solitude in life that is the beginning of the notion of the peace that passes understanding. So we're going to talk about this morning. Inner peace creates outer peace. which ultimately creates this peace on earth, world peace. And as we can see, it starts within. It starts with us. Where does it start inside? I'll tell you, it didn't start on my meditation cushion. For me, it did not start with the experience of peace. It started with me realizing that my experience of peace wasn't enough. That I had to really find a new way to think about life. That I had to really put into practice the things that I was learning from my spirituality. What I believe and sense and feel about the truth of life. Is this peace? Is it a quality of spirit? How can we know that peace is an absolute quality of life, an absolute quality of God, beyond just an intellectual understanding, right? Oh, the qualities of God, peace, power, love, life, beauty, joy, right? We can rattle them off. But how do we know? How do we make sense of this idea that a quality of spirit is peace? If there's oneness, if there's one life, and there's no other besides the one life, the argument goes, how can life be divided? If there's one life, if there's one thing, there can't be two. So there can't actually be two things contending against each other. There can't be good and evil. There can't actually be dark and light in the one infinite reality. There can only be one thing happening. And if there's only one thing happening, and it's never against itself, wouldn't that be the definition of peace? Right? So I started there. I started contemplating. So if there is no thing contending with life, if it is in itself that oneness, and peace is the inherent quality of life itself, then anything that I feel like I'm contending with, any darkness, any evil, any upset, anything that I think that I'm contending with can't actually be of spirit. Can't actually be a part of that infinite quality of life itself. Something else is being expressed. Something else is going on. Oh. Uh-oh. There. So what does it mean to be at peace? What does it mean to be at peace? From this spiritually lofty spiritual place. So I'm going to read you a few quotes from Ernest Holmes. You can close your eyes if you like. They're filled with a lot of jargon. Okay? Are you ready? Here we go. In the silence of the soul's communion with the great cause of all being, into the stillness of the absolute, into the secret place of the Most High, back of the din and the ceaselessness roar of life, we shall find a resting place and a place of real spiritual power behind the waterfall. Peace is an inner calm, obtained through our knowledge of what we believe and why. Without knowledge, there is no lasting peace. Nothing can bring peace but the revelation of the individual to themselves and a recognition of their direct relationship to the universe. We must know that we are an eternal being on the pathway of life with certainty behind us, certainty before us, and certainty accompanying us all the way. Peace is brought about through a conscious union, a conscious unity of the personal with the inner principle of life. That underlying current flowing from a divine center, pressing ever outward into expression. But this can never be by proxy. We can hire others to do work for us, to care for our physical needs, but no one can live for us. This we must do for ourselves. What does it mean to be at peace? How do we actualize those words? Those words that stir me so unbelievably. It's the promise that when we live in alignment with our spiritual truth, when we know who and what we actually are in that absolute place of peace, in spite of, in the midst of the din and the ceaseless noise of life itself, of this life here. To be at peace. So if you were to describe to be at peace, how would you describe it? How does it feel to you to be at peace? Absence of angst. Calm. Relaxed. Grounded. Still. Soft. Tranquil. Clear. Confident. Present. Fulfilled. Breathe easy. Breathe easy. Yeah. Okay, so what I want you to notice right now is that you actually know what it feels like to be at peace. You do, actually, right? And it's not just any one of these words. And notice that some of the words actually are very like tranquil and calm, but confident and clear, right? May be more active words. It's not just in a withdrawn state. And so having this conversation, what does it mean to be at peace? To be with what is, right? To not be in resistance, to not be anxious, to not need it to be different than it is, to have some acceptance. Oh, I see my little C and E kind of got... Well, I guess I'm just accepting the way that slide took my word. Right? And to not get all wigged out about it. Oh, what do they think? I didn't do it right. All blah, 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 right? All that stuff that goes on. To let go of control. To be confident, to be clear, to not be in, well, to do battle with our lives, right? Isn't peace the opposite of doing battle with our own lives? In some form or fashion in which we can do that, we can get involved. So being with what is, acceptance and letting go of control is a way in which we sink into peace, right? It's a place of allowing. We're allowing life to be what it is. On the other hand, we can have a very active engagement with peace. And so these were some of the words that spoke to me. Gratitude is a doorway into peace. Right? No matter what's going on, if I can see the things that I'm actually grateful for, then that big, giant, looming thing, all of a sudden I realize, wait a minute, it's actually a lot smaller than I thought, because there's all these other things going on in our lives that are actually pretty darn good. Gratitude shifts the focus. To be in the flow. We have to decide to be in the flow, and we're then going with what's going on as opposed to doing battle with it. One of my favorite words for being at peace is trust. And I'm trusting the universe. I'm trusting the way things are going to work out. I'm trusting that I'm following my intuition. I'm trusting guidance. I'm trusting that the universe does, in fact, have my back, right? All of these ways in which we move in the world from a place of trust rather than from a place of figuring it out, making it happen, needing it to be a certain specific way, which to me comes then to that place of being centered, confident, clear, centered, grounded, somebody said, right? Being at peace is a place of being centered when we are able to move in the world from that place of inner peace. Sit behind the waterfall in the midst of it all and still be centered. Trust that that water isn't going to sweep away the nest. Know that we're in the flow of life. Be grateful that we have this protected place, right? I love the image of that little nest, of that little bird in the midst of this passing, raging storm, this thundering waterfall. Doesn't our life sometimes feel like that? And here is that moment of peace within. Peace in that moment. So, then we have to ask the all-important question. What stands in the way of peace? Oh, wait, don't read those. Let's see what you say. Those are what I wrote. What stands in the way of peace for you? Judgment. Comparison. Noise. Expectations. Worry. Traffic. Those darn people. Say that again. Control. Ugh. Pain, fear. Competition. I heard something else in the back. What did I miss? Recalcitrance. Ooh, I love that word. Self-doubt. Resistance. Oh, man. Disagreement. We had no trouble coming up with all these words, didn't we? We had no trouble coming up with all these words. What do most of these words have to have in common? I heard two things they have in common. Yes, right? And especially that a bunch of them are out there. I need it to be different out there, right? I need it to be different out there. And a bunch of it is in here. I don't feel good about myself. I don't feel good about how I'm being in the world. There's something in here I don't feel good about. So it's either all about you or it's all about me, right? And in both cases, it's no good. Whatever it is, a judgment, comparison, self, right? It's no good, which is the opposite of those things we just talked about. So these are some of the things that I came up with as I thought about what stands in the way. Judgment, distractions, noise, and disagreement, and the onslaught, and then especially the negative onslaught. The negative onslaught from our own lives, our own mind, and the negative onslaught from the media and all the ways in which that's coming at us. And this one that I don't know anything about. Nor do you, Linda, I know. None of us in this room. Trying to control, trying to figure it out, trying to manage it, right? And then we're all anxious about how it's working out, which is the very opposite of gratitude and trust. The very opposite of gratitude and trust. I love this quote from Lao Tzu. If you are depressed, you are living in the past. If you are anxious, you are living in the future. If you are at peace, you are living in the present. Judgment, comparison, control, anxiety, depression, all of these things, right? We either wish it were different back there, or we're all worried about how it's going to be up there, and we're not actually we're not actually in the moment. Are you okay right now? Right? In this very moment. Are you okay at home right now? At this very moment. Right here, right now, in this moment. And there are so many moments like that we miss because we're living either in what was or what we're afraid will be, or what we're trying to manage into. If we are at peace, we are absolutely in the present moment. And if we can make ourselves move into the present moment, we are more likely to move into peace. So this quote comes from J. Donald Walters. You will find peace not by trying to escape your problems, but by confronting them courageously. You will find peace not in denial, but in victory. I found this a difficult lesson, right? Because peace, when I first really began thinking about this peace, I really began thinking about, well, it should be going to that little lake in the mountains, right? Where there aren't any problems. And if I could just get to that spot, I would be at peace. But our lives aren't like that, are they? Our lives are a continual series of opportunities to grow, one right after another. And it's not about escaping them, but confronting them courageously. And do you see, confronting them courageously, confront and courage are not words that we normally associate with peace, are they? So I just invite you to breathe that in for a minute. That was another really profound revelation for me. Peace doesn't mean you're just sitting going, I fluffed my aura, everything's okay. But when we're centered, and we're in gratitude, and we're trusting that the universe has our back, do you see we can confront courageously without worry or anxiety or depression, because we are standing in that centered place. And it is then and only then that we begin to become a place of peace in the world. It's then and only then that we become a place of peace in the world, right? Because ultimately, when we're in that place, then we move in that place, right? And I really saw that and I discovered that the more that I stopped needing for my whole life to feel like it felt on the meditation cushion, but to recognize that internally I wanted to feel like I felt on the meditation cushion. And then the world could take care of itself. It could be whatever it is, right? Do you see, now we're bringing our peace into the world. We're actually now a place of peace on earth, goodwill to all. Because that's our come from place, not our look for place. I can't tell you with what deep, personal, painful experience I'm speaking from. I mean, I really thought it came out from out there. I really did. I believed that if I could look for it, and I would find those things out there that would provide peace or show me peace or be peaceful, and I could just be out there, be with that, then I would be at peace. Rather than recognizing that it is the thing that we bring with us, as opposed to the thing that we are looking for. Eleanor Roosevelt says it isn't enough to talk about peace, believe in it. And it isn't enough to believe in it. One must work at it. One must work at it. We have to work at it. We have to work at being that, being in trust, being in gratitude, being not anxious, being centered, being all those things that we said were important. Now, I love this. I love this idea of courageously confronting, and that not all the words are about quiet. I remember actually having this conversation with someone, and I was really worked up about the issues of social justice and the climate. I was super worked up about it. And I was like, we have to be involved in this, right? CSLDallas has to be involved in this. We have to be doing something about this. I have to be involved in this. And the person said to me, so what traumatized you in your childhood that would make you so upset about this? And I thought, why are you pathologizing my need for justice? Why would we pathologize our need to engage in the world to be about a world that works for everyone? Why would we think that our engagement, our strong and present engagement with that, would come from a place of trauma or dysfunction? What if it is us courageously confronting the things that need to be worked on, the places where peace are not being revealed, the places where it isn't collectively being engaged with? Why do we have to think that something is wrong with having that? And it's okay to be about peace when we're at war, but there are so many other things that require our courageous confrontation from a centered, trusting place that allows us to be clear and confident, centered within ourselves. Do you see? That's also the part that we need to work on and contribute. That is when we bring peace with us, whether that's to our families, to our holiday experiences, or to the things that are going on in the world. So what does it mean to act peacefully? Right? Not just to be at peace, but then to act peacefully, to be in the world and to act from that place. These were the things that I came up with. Centered strength, to work and operate from our centered strength, to have calm dissent, nonviolent action. We're all very familiar with that. And staying the course without resigning ourselves, becoming apathetic, saying, well, it's just the way it is, it'll never change. All of those kinds of things, because that is then the way we show up in the world. Peace on earth, goodwill to all. I love these quotes. They come from peacedirect.org. The more we sweat in peace, the less we bleed in war. The more work we are willing to do about being in our own center, being in trust, being in gratitude, absolutely requiring ourselves to show up that way in the world, all the hard work that takes, the more we're willing to do that, the less war, the less battle, not just, war with guns, there is. And of course, Martin Luther King, peace is not merely a distant goal that we seek, but a means by which we arrive at that goal. Do you see? That's the come from place, not the look for place. The come from place. It's all about how we show up and what we decide to do. So we'll close with this quote from Desmond Tutu. Do your little bit of good where you are. It's those little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world, that change our own lives, that change the life of our families, our communities, our nation, and that make a monumental difference. So let us close. Just inviting you to go within for a moment. I just want you to go within for a moment, and I invite you to be that little bird on that little nest. And just notice the waterfalls that are thundering around you, the storms that may be crashing around you, all the noise and distractions, and just be that little bird on that nest. centered, calm, connected, in perfect trust. That, my friends, is the peace that passes understanding. When someone looks at you and says, how in the middle of this situation can you be at peace? It's because you know the truth. You know the truth of life. You know the truth of yourself. And you know what it takes to stay in that calm and centered place. So this week, I invite you into peace on earth, goodwill to all. And so it is.